And at the moment they read those allegations, I would have took Puffy, made sure there was no baby oil in the room, and grabbed him by his arm and said, hey man, pay this woman.
Real life.
It ain't real life. Just say real life street stars. Know what time it is.
You know, with this case, right? There's just been a lot of it's been a lot of things, right? How would you score the defense versus the prosecution with Cassie, right?
I really liked the defense up until I unlocked the code.
Oh, so you when did you realize what play was being said?
Earlier today, when I was listening to
Don Richards.
Yeah, and I was listening to her former friend and the guy, his former assistant, and I was listening to him, and then I was going back and forth and looking at the law and looking at the statutes, and it just wasn't really making a whole lot of sense.
Right.
Because you have these people focusing in on him beating her, and I don't know why they put this last friend on, because she really didn't go into anything other than the video that happened at the Intercontinental and the acts that Puffy did after the fact. Now, also part of that whole conspiracy and racketeering.
Yeah.
What is it illegal to have? Cocaine, opioids.
Right.
And so all of that, and what Cassie said she did. She said she did drugs.
Right.
So now we got a conspiracy to provide drugs at a party because you're supplying it. That in itself is an illegal act. And so all of these things, when you start looking at racketeering combined with conspiracy, you're looking at a number of illegal acts that took place. And these behaviors or people acting in concert to facilitate this illegal act, this criminal enterprise, as they say. And so if I'm bringing in drugs, illegal drugs constantly to a party, to a group of people on a regular basis, you and I are in agreement that we're going to supply these things. There you go.
So is Cassie innocent in any of this? Can she have charges?
Look, man, I reserve opinion on anyone because I don't know that. I don't know that woman.
Right. But I mean, if you're looking at it, you know, she's in cahoots with, you see what I'm saying? Like,
I do. I would want to see a psych evaluation or hear from an expert to talk about her behaviors and the things that took place and the things that happened to her,
right,
and explain how they feel that all affected her mental state
right
at the time. Because on one end, just like everyone else, they say, she makes a statement, I did it because I didn't want him to be unhappy. I did it to make him happy. I did it because I didn't want him to find someone else to do it with.
It's like swap.
And so when you say those type of things, those aren't really things that are 100% gun to your head, take your clothes off, sleep with this dude.
Yeah, right.
Those are things, it can be considered several ways, but at the same time, she could have been in a mental state in which she was just so broken down and beaten down that he had handcuffs on her mentally and not physically, to the point where he picks up the phone and says, hey girl, get over here right now and take your clothes off. And she is perfectly safe. She's in a police station, but yet she leaves the police station to come to him. And so that's not normal. And so there's so many different caveats in this. And until we hear from experts that can really break down the behavior, it's just our own personal opinion. But I will say this, that there are people who do things in this country that we don't know about. Right. And one of the things that kind of caught my ear too was they stated that they went to swinger clubs
Yeah.
So now that takes it into a whole new arena.
Why is it?
Because now you're talking about potentially someone's lifestyle. This is not, and this is public. This is a public lifestyle and not just locked up in some penthouse with security guards outside the door. This is you and I putting on a mask or going to a location that's so exclusive that there's other people like us there who have the same fetishes and the same likes, and they're there, so no one's talking. It's kind of like Heidi Fleiss when she had the prostitution ring.
Yeah.
All the elected officials, professional athletes, movie stars, everybody saw each other coming in and out and moving around this woman, but nobody said anything. And so, but to take it into the public and swing, that's different. That's different. I wasn't expecting that.
What defines a victim in the courts?
The victim. The victim.
Even if the victim is seemingly complicit?
Then at that point it goes to the jury. Because I can say I'm a victim, right?
Right.
But if I go to a jury of individuals, I'm not gonna say my peers.
Right.
A jury of individuals, and they say, no, Larry, now you got diabetes, you kind of were complicit in that. You went to the store and bought them Twinkies, right? You drank all that grape soda. And I'm talking about health because I just saw the chef, but you did all these things that affected your body.
Right.
So, victim, I don't know, because it wasn't one thing that you did. It was a multitude of things you did that contributed to your health or what happened to you.
It doesn't seem like Cassie wanted Diddy to go to jail. The reason I'm saying this is because basically she could have called the police a long time ago, right? But it seemed like she wanted his money.
But we talked about it. We talked about that the first time we talked about it.
Yeah.
Diddy's lawyers messed up when, for example, her friend who was suing Puff or Sean, she sent a demand saying, pay me this much, and a copy of the lawsuit that she was going to file. You can't tell me, it's standard practice. You can't tell me Cassie's lawyer didn't do the same thing. And at the moment they read those allegations, I would have took Puffy, made sure there was no baby oil in the room, and grabbed him by his arm and said, hey man, pay this woman. Pay this woman, talk to your CPA, find a way to write it off, do whatever you're gonna do, but pay this woman and make sure this does not see the light of day. But the moment that it became public and those allegations came through, look at what happens with every case. Every case like this, the first person has an outcry and immediately there are other victims that come forward. Right? And for example, I think Shannon Sharp, the woman that he was on the video, on the live with, had no problem with it for, what has it been, a year or two? Yeah. But now that this case has come out and this allegation, he's being sued, now she's suing him.
Right, out the woodwork.
Right? And so, anytime these allegations come out, you take if you take a strong stance, you better have some Jay-Z arsenal behind you.
Yeah, Jay-Z's not playing.
So I got a question. They just dropped all the photos of the sex workers today, right? And a lot of times it feels like they're trying to win the public opinion in these court cases. What do you think the outcome of that's going to be?
The dropping of the photos?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Look.
It's just the diversion?
It's the diversion and it's the shock your senses. I don't know the statistics. I don't. Because I'm not in everyone's bedroom. Right? But I mean, swinger club, watching somebody and doing the things that they did. I mean, I would say more than half of America was sitting there reading that with their jaws dropped. Like, what in the...
They didn't even know what's going on.
Right. Like, you had to go back and read it again just to follow because your mind doesn't work like that.
Right.
And so when you shock people in that type of manner, then, because I think someone said that the jury was in shock.
Right, for sure.
Right. And so you have, Sean has pretty much some good things on appeal, because if the whole thing is really about sex trafficking and racketeering, dropping all these photos and doing the things that they're doing really is prejudicing the jury against them.
They're making him a monster before. Yeah.
For his personal life.
Right.
Like, you got a woman and she have 2 husbands. That's not my thing.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm not judging this woman. That's her business. Right? She is, and let's say not husbands, but 2 life partners. That's not against the law. It's not illegal. And my morality isn't her gauge.
Right.
So we can't do that.
Yeah, you're already shaping him like to what the society doesn't go against. So
exactly.
And you're trying to So speaking of him, people not knowing what's going on, right? The husband, I think he ran out of court, right? Or something like that.
One of the days.
He stormed out of court because he's finding out things that he didn't know about, right? And does he have any grounds after this to be like, oh, I want a divorce to get the money because of all the stuff that went on that she didn't tell?
Brother, people have divorced people for less.
Oh.
People have divorced people for less. Right? So, it's, to be honest with you, he might be set up to not only divorce her, but potentially get the children. Right? He didn't know that she was into that type of behavior.
But they said he trained her for the freak offs.
No.
He was the trainer.
Okay, first of all, that visual that you just threw out there.
Training for the freak off.
What is he? How do you? What, he got a super soaker and all kinds of.
He trained her for the because he said one of the situations was Diddy, and again I've been watching all the footage. They had a freak off, and he wanted her to work on her endurance, so he hired a trainer. Now the reason why Diddy is mad is because she ran off with the trainer that he pays. So they kind of try to make it seem like, well, how did I have so much control when you ran off with the nigga I'm paying? Like, so.
That too much money.
Look.
Yeah, way too much money.
Look. I honestly think that they probably will get divorced, and he will get the kids, and because he gets the kids, and they were married at the time that she got that settlement.
Oh, he figured that 15 M's.
He about to get broken off and make up.
I feel like the only reason that Cassie sued was because of him.
I was gonna ask you about that. No. I was gonna ask you about that. Is it the nature in which she sued him blackmail? She literally wrote a book and sent it to him like, nigga, I'm gonna release it if you don't.
No, I told you that's what happens. That's what happens. I mean, I don't care if it's a car wreck. Your client, Will Show, was on his phone watching porn videos and not paying attention. And according to the car, it swerved 3 times just 5 minutes before, and he didn't stop his behavior. And now he did this and killed my client's kids. And if you don't do this, and the trucking company is also liable because they should have known, because they have in-dash cameras and he was on his phone that should have been reported and blah, 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 and this and that. And you send it and you say, pay me X amount.
Yeah.
And if you don't, I'm filing. You got 48 hours.
Damn.
That's not uncommon, man.
That's crazy. One of the other stories that happened was there was a guy that stormed the Capitol who actually was one of the was one of the sex workers, right? And he told his testimony after he got arrested about how the sex parties went down. Everybody thought he was crazy. The Odie guy. And then he got a flash drive and recorded one of the sessions because Cassie actually passed out during one of the freak offs because she overdosed. And he wanted to have footage to be like, hey, nigga, it wasn't me. So he sent the footage to them. They settled out for $5 million. But he was still able to tell his story. How is that possible? If I give you $5 million, I can still go out and tell the story?
Because you cannot negotiate to not tell on a criminal issue. If it's a criminal matter, I cannot pay you not to talk to the police. Because that in itself, dun dun dun,
It's criminal.
yes. And so, you know, these NDAs and all these other things that they got going on, you know, dealing with these criminal acts, man, that don't work.
So, wait, hold on. I think you just dropped another bombshell. So, these criminal NDAs, that's if you're doing anything illegal with the NDA.
You cannot pay someone to look. Let me say this. Let me correct myself on that.
Okay.
Let me correct myself on that. So going back to the Bill Cosby trial, when he was first sued, the woman wasn't supposed to say anything. The DA knew about it, and so that agreement was had, and that's one of the reasons why Cosby was able to get out of jail, because it breached that contract that he had, that case would never be filed. So there are certain agreements that you can make in that regards, but paying someone hush money is and we've known instances in which that's happened, right? In which you can go back to the Kobe Bryant case that was filed, eventually went nowhere, they settled. So anytime that you have a victim of a crime that has a civil matter, sometimes the criminal case may go away if it is negotiated at the time that in return for compensation, the witness is now becoming an unwilling witness and refusing to testify unless subpoenaed, and the state decides that they won't go any further because they see that justice has been done and the victim is made whole. And so there's a couple of different scenarios.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what this NDA really covers, because like say I get an assistant, right? And then she comes to my, like, you don't tell nothing that's going on, we agree or whatever. She comes to my house and I'm cooking crack. And then, you know what I'm saying? And then she leaves and then she tells like, hey, he was cooking crack in there. I mean, am I protected?
Well, if the police come to her and say, hey, look, we know you were in there, you know he's in there cooking crack, we want you to testify to what you saw.
I was like, you got that NDA, girl. You better not tell.
But there have been instances in which people have not spoken up, right? And so Cassie could have actually went in there and said she don't recall. She could have woodied the whole. She could have woodied the whole trial.
So why didn't she? Is that bad counsel?
Nah, man, I don't know what's in the. Doc, it's something. There's something underlining about all of that. It's something underlining about all of that as far as, and it's personal. I mean, anybody who's watching this, there's something personal going on that we really don't know, right? It's something that's going on that we really don't know about. And I think a large part of that is why she did what she did, because once she got her money, a normal person would have thought that she would have been in the win.
So originally it came with a plea deal of 15 years. If you're representing Diddy, what do you tell him?
That's his call, man.
Well, being that you don't know everything that's on the table right now, that the prosecutor's evidence, right? But Like, do you take it to trial? Like, do you want it to take it to trial? From what you see.
This is the problem a lot of times with these cases, in the sense that federal judges do what they want to do. And you really have to have the prosecutor on your side in order to get what you want out of the deal. And so he could plead to a lesser included or something different and maybe get 10, or present to the judge a rationale why he should get less. But because of this video and the evidence, I don't see a judge being lenient. I just don't.
Even though it's like ridiculously old, like
It is a federal court judge. I don't know if you've been before many of them.
no, I've never. I
But-
thank God.
But they don't play.
Right.
They don't play. And their sense of, how should I say it? They have a very high sense of decency. And that act and these acts and beating a woman probably shocks their senses in a way that I don't.
Monster.
Mr. Combs,
You're a monster.
But does this warrant life though? Because that's what he's facing, right? He's facing life in prison.
man, look here. The federal statute is what the federal statute is. And there's this kind of going back to the crack versus cocaine. You can have the same amount of cocaine and the same amount of crack, and it's 1 to 99. You gone for the same for a rock for the same size of cocaine. You not even looked at. You're like, man, go to rehab and bring me a note back from your doctor, and we'll dismiss the case. So it's just. It's
But that seems like they're targeting black men when they do stuff like that, because they know that when you think about cocaine, that's a more expensive drug than crack, which was targeted for the black people. So it's like,
in that sense, it was because crack cocaine was linked to, and I grew up in that era. Crack cocaine was linked to the violence that took place on street corners, right? I mean, Omar wasn't a fictional character. Omar wasn't fictional. Now, their name may not have been Omar,
right.
but Omar was in B-More, he was in Houston, he was in Dallas. And whenever, and this is the thing I always tell people, whenever you have a heightened sense of violence, it creates additional waves of violence. Because if you think about it, there was violence based on crack and territory. Then it was robbing crack dealers. And then it became basically carjacking became deadly. Like they weren't even waiting for you to get out your car and hotwire it. They were just hitting you at a stoplight, shooting you and pulling you out the car. And so whenever you have a feeding frenzy like that, you create these feeding frenzy, it gets dangerous. And so they saw crack as something that was a threat to their sense of decency. And so that's why it ended up getting some of the harsh treatment that it did. So I don't think it had anything to do wholeheartedly with color, because you got to remember too, they have prosecuted some pretty high profile white men as well, and white women in these type of cases.
Epstein
and his assistant or his friend, a female. So they've gone after some pretty high profile individuals on all sides.
What makes a judge? I mean, I'm sitting there and it's a question for me. How do you become like a judge, like so higher than the lawyer or anything like that? Why do we have to respect the judge so much? Can you dive in that for me? Like, what is the protocol of these judges?
You said it right there. It's the same reason why we fixed the pastor's lunch first. Everything has protocol and a sense of decorum to it. Without that, you have chaos.
Right. So what do you have to do different to be a judge? Is it just the
So, and this is interesting. I'm going to encourage someone who doesn't have a law degree and doesn't plan on going to law school. Usually in every state, there is a position, a judicial position that doesn't require you to be a lawyer. In Texas, it's a justice of the peace. You don't have to be a lawyer. Any one of you could be a justice of the peace. You just have to get elected. So, you know, Jeff could be in a black robe next November.
That's right.
You know, slapping the gavel down, talking about guilty.
Yeah.
Pay him.
Yeah.
Get out of here. Dismiss.
no schooling or
Oh, yeah,
anything?
too.
So I mean, do you have to have any schooling or anything?
No. They send you to like a 2-day school just to know the basis of what you need to say. But all of those things are basically ruled on by someone listening.
What about like a federal judge?
That you have to be a lawyer in, and that you have to be confirmed by the U.S. Senate. And so they have to vote on you and confirm you. And usually you're a presidential pick in that regard.
Shout out RealLyfe Street Stars, nigga. Move it. Hey.